All right, well, the last time we read, Jack and Annie had trotted off on their own on their donkeys, and they had the monkey with them. And then Annie decided to remember to go into the tomb. And then all of a sudden, the last thing that we read was that they saw some jackals, and that's exactly what they were afraid of. So, chapter 6 is called No Big Deal. Whew, maybe that's good news. Maybe that means everything's going to be okay. All right, so let's read chapter 6, No Big Deal. Annie turned and saw the jackals running toward her. "Oh no!" she cried. Shrieking, Kaku leapt from Annie's arms and bounded across the dry, cracked ground. When the jackals saw the baby baboon, they stopped. Then, cackling and yelping, they took off after her. Kaku screeched and bolted toward the mountain. The jackals were right behind her. "No!" screamed Annie. She tore after Kaku and the jackals. Hey, do you remember what the front of our book looks like? That's what I think is happening right now. "Annie!" Jack yelled. He jumped off his donkey and ran after her. From a distance, Jack saw the baby baboon disappear into a crack between two cliffs. Howling and cackling, the jackals followed Kaku. They slipped into the crack and vanished from sight. Annie was racing to catch up. Jack was far behind when he finally reached her. Annie was desperately trying to squeeze through the narrow opening. "We can't fit through there," said Jack. "We have to save Kaku," Annie cried. They heard shrieking and yelping and cackling above them. Then gradually the sounds faded away. "Kaku!" screamed Annie. Dead silence. "Oh no, I think they got her," Annie wailed. "I think that they got her, Jack." She burst into tears. "Kaku, Kaku," she repeated, sobbing. Jack didn't know what to say. Everything had happened so fast. Then suddenly, he heard another sound. "Wahoo!" "Annie!" Jack grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her. "Listen!" Annie put her hand over her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she listened. "Wahoo!" The sound came from high above them. Here's a picture of the jackals. Jackals are kind of like wolf type, dog type things. There's the monkey. Jack and Annie stepped back and looked up the steep cliff. Kaku was at the very top, jumping up and down. Screeching at them. "She made it," cried Annie. "She got away. Kaku, come down, come down." "Where are the jackals?" said Jack. "I'll bet it's too steep for them to climb up after her," said Annie. "Kaku, come down." The baby baboon paced back and forth along the edge of the cliff, crying. "We have to get her. We have to go get her," said Annie. "She's afraid to come down." Kaku screeched and waved her arms. "We can't climb up there," said Jack. "It's too steep." "We have to try," said Annie. "We're not rock climbers," said Jack, looking up at the steep wall of limestone. "Only the best rock climbers in the world could get up there." "We can do that," said Annie. "We can be great rock climbers." You can't just be one," said Jack. "You have to go through lots of training and practice." "The mist," Annie said. "We can use the magic mist and make a wish to be great rock climbers." "Use the mist?" said Jack. They could only use the mist once, and it was supposed to help them with their mission. But when they looked up at the baby baboon crying and waving her arms, saving Kaku seemed more important than anything. "Okay," said Jack. "We'll use the mist to get her down, but we might have to walk back. I'll bet both of our donkeys have run far away by now." "No problem, we can do that," said Annie. "Hurry before the jackals come back." Annie reached into his leather pouch and pulled out the tiny bottle. He uncorked the top. "Here goes," Jack said. "I wish to be a great rock climber." He slowly inhaled the magic mist, his nostrils filled with the scent of mountain air and cold, moving water. The fresh, clean smell filled them with strength and energy. Jack handed the bottle to Annie. "I wish to be a great rock climber," she exclaimed. Annie inhaled the mist too. Then she gave the bottle back to Jack. He corked it and put it away. Jack and Annie looked up at the steep wall of the limestone cliff. "No big deal," said Jack. "Easy," said Annie. She called up to the baby baboon. "We're coming, Kaku. Don't worry, we'll save you." "We have 1 hour to climb up and back down," said Jack. "First, we need to take off our boots so our toes can fit in the cracks." "Righto," said Annie. She and Jack coolly slipped off their boots and stockings. "Okay, now we follow the 3 basic rules of rock climbing," said Jack. "We look, we think, we move." "Got it," said Annie. Jack and Annie moved about 20 feet apart. They each studied the cliff wall as if it were a giant map. Jack looked for cracks, ledges, bumps, and holes. After he charted his route in his mind, he took a long, deep breath. He lodged the toes of his left foot into a crack in the limestone. He reached high and gripped 2 tiny bumps on the wall with his fingers. Then he pulled himself up out of the corner of his eye. He saw Annie doing the same thing. Jack and Annie climbed higher and higher up the wall. Jack took his time to find new cracks for his toes. He slowly ran his hands over the rock face to find bumps and ledges to grab with his fingers. As an expert rock climber, Jack knew exactly how to shift his body weight and when to relax his grip. He knew exactly how to push with his legs and when to pull with his hands. Annie was silently climbing up the cliff at the same time, but Jack didn't look at her or think of her. He completely ignored Kaku's screeching from above. He kept all his attention focused on finding new places to grip the face of the cliff with his fingers and toes. Slowly and calmly, Jack gripped, pulled, and pushed his way up the face of the cliff. He climbed and climbed until it was only a few feet from the top. He couldn't see over the ledge, but he gripped tightly with his fingertips and hoisted himself higher. Wahoo! Kaku poked her head over the edge of the cliff, breaking Jack's concentration. She reached down and grabbed his ear. "Ow!" Jack yelled. His left hand lost its grip. His right foot slipped. Then his left foot slipped. Jack was hanging on to the ledge with just one hand, and that hand was slipping. "Annie!" he called. Just as Jack was about to lose his grip and fall, he felt a hand clamp down on his right wrist. "Hold on!" Annie cried. She'd reached the top ahead of him. Jack's fingers slipped from the ledge, but Annie held onto his wrist with both hands as he dangled high above the stony ground below. The baboon shrieked. The vultures cawed in the cloudless sky. "You're still a great rock climber, Jack," Annie shouted. "You know how to do this." So here's what's happening right now. "I know how to do this," Jack thought. He clicked back into thinking like an expert rock climber. He twisted himself toward the rock wall. He reached out with his free hand and secured his fingertips in a small crevice. He planted his bare toes onto 2 ridges. "Okay, I'm good," called Jack. "You can let go." Annie released Jack's hand. He quickly gripped a small bump on the rock face. He was very still for a moment, blocking out all sounds and thoughts. He waited for his breathing to slow down. He waited for his legs to stop shaking and for his body to relax. Using all his strength, Jack pulled himself upward. He lifted his leg over the rim of the limestone cliff. Then he gracefully pulled his whole body up and over the edge. "Whew," breathed Jack. He was safe. Oh man. All right. So chapter 7 is the title of chapter 7 is Panic. So they're not out of the woods yet. They've still got to get down and they still have to get back, and hopefully their donkeys didn't take off. Oh, Jack and Annie's adventures wear me out sometimes. I can only imagine what 2 little kids in the desert would look like in real life. That would be kind of crazy. I'm glad to know that this isn't real life. All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. And I might have some guest readers. If I can talk some of my family into jumping in here and reading a chapter or 2 with us, I might have some guest readers. My parents are coming, and my mom used to be a teacher. My sister's coming. She's a teacher. And my son and his wife are coming, and she's a teacher. So we'll see. They may want to just be on vacation, but that would be fun. I think it would be a lot of fun. We'll see if we can get them to come read with us. All right, so next time we will read chapter 7, Panic. And let's hope that they get out. I hope you can wait that long. See you later. Bye.